Disclaimer: everything that is discussed posted is strictly for educational and historical purposes only. It does not promote nor condone illegal activities. Gameness by Jack Kelly in 1978, shortly before I moved to Georgia from New York. The late Andre Drew called me to report a match he had just won with a son of Davis GRCH Boomerang that he called Patty. This was Patty's third win, and Andre also wanted to register him as a champion. During the course of our conversation, Andre was bemoaning the fact he didn't have a thing to breed Patty to. That is, nothing that he thought would cross well with Patty. I reminded Andre that he did have a bitch that would look real good bred to Patty. The bitch was called Black Pinky, and was one of the 30 or so odd dogs that was registered as being sired by Bullison out of Arts Missy. Andre never liked that old bitch. He claimed she was as ugly as any bitch he had ever seen. Someone had cut off her ears and her tail, and she was scared from head to toe. Andre had matched her one time and had to pick her up in 9 minutes with a bad bleeder. Andre had farmed her out after she lost, and as he thought about it, he did admit that the bitch was as ugly as sin. At last Andre agreed that the breeding looked like a good one, and then he said, "I'll make the breeding, and if they have pups, I'll send you a couple of male pups." Some time later Andre called again and said that Black Pinky had whelped 3 male pups, and would I mind if he just sent me 1 pup instead of the 2 he promised. He sent me a little black pup, chunky build, and undershot that even at his early age, he looked like he was in charge of everything around him. Andre registered the dog with a DBA and named him Black Flash. He grew up to be a 37-pound dog, and after the usual number of rolls and testing, I matched him at a 6-dog show in South Carolina. I drew Jimmy Coleman as an opponent, and he had Scotty McNeil handle a brindle and white dog sired by Coleman's Turkey, who was one of the better-known stud dogs of the time. Jimmy's dog was called Old Mr. Boston. Sometime early in the match, I acquired an unofficial cornerman and all-around rooter. I never did learn the young man's name. Along about the hour mark, Black Flash was doing a pretty good job on the Old Mr. Boston's legs, and Jimmy yelled into the pit and asked me for a scratch to continue. Ordinarily, I wouldn't be interested in anything that deviated from the rules the way they were written. However, Jimmy was and still is one of the most gentlemanly, gracious, and decent fellows in the game. I told him that he could scratch to continue. However, if Boston did scratch, it would have no other significance in the match and would still be his turn to scratch. Of course, if he didn't scratch, the match would be over. Jimmy agreed, and we took our dogs to their respective corners. As I was tending to my dog faced into the corner, my unofficial advisor leaned in close and told me that there was no way Old Mr. Boston was coming. We faced our dogs, and the third man in the box told Scotty to release Boson. Here he came, like a bullet onto busted up front legs. After a little while, Boston did turn and was called on again to scratch. "No way can he scratch," bellowed my advisor. Soon as I turned around with Flash, Old Mr. Boston was right in our laps. The same scenario repeated itself for several more scratches, until Jimmy told Scotty to pick up Boston at 2 hours and 17 minutes. Jimmy wanted to see Boston scratch one more time for a courtesy. Back to our corners we went, and my well-intentioned cornerman told me one last time. "Their dog is limp in his corner. He can't possibly scratch. He can't even stand up," was the latest advice from outside my corner. I faced Flash, and here comes Old Mr. Boston, limping, stumbling, falling down, getting up, and finally falling almost between Flash's front legs. I held Flash's mouth closed and eased him up to me so that the dogs would not get into hold again, and the match was over. "Aha!" exclaimed my unrecognized helper. "I knew he wouldn't make that scratch. He's a cur. All I could do is look at my young admirer and wondered what old Mr. Boston would have had to do to gain the admiration of this overly critical young man. There are all kinds of degrees of gameness, and when a dog is 100% game is a rare quality in any dog. I have probably been witness to several thousand matches in my time in the dogs. I can honestly say that in all of those matches, I can count the number of truly game dogs on my fingers and toes and still have a few digits left over. Old Mr. Boston was one of those 100%ers. Black Flash might have been just as game, however. He didn't have to prove it. He ran a courtesy scratch, but he was physically all in one piece. Could he have scratched in the shape that old Mr. Boston was in? Who knows? He won the match. Jack Kelly. Well, there you have it, folks. Gameness by Jack Kelly.